The bank account you checked this morning is inaccurate. Not because the numbers are wrong, but because you don't actually know what those numbers are worth. You think your wealth is tied to your hard work, your grind, or your savings account. It isn't. Your life is tethered to a secret architecture designed in a hotel room in 1974. An architecture that is currently on fire. Most people think the transition to green energy is about saving the planet. It isn't. For the people who run the world, the climate is a secondary concern. The green revolution is actually a desperate, high-stakes war over currency hegemony. If the dollar dies, your purchasing power doesn't just dip. It evaporates. Disclaimer: this is not financial advice. This is a systems analysis of geopolitical power. If you are looking for buy and hold tips, you are in the wrong place. If you want to understand why the world feels like it's breaking, stay. The United States doesn't export enough stuff to justify the world's reliance on the dollar. We export debt. We export inflation. And yet, the world takes it. Why? Because for 50 years, if you wanted to keep the lights on in your country, you had to buy the US dollar first. Imagine you're at a local carnival. There are dozens of stalls, but every single vendor, from the cotton candy guy to the Ferris wheel operator, only accepts blue tokens. You can't use your own money. To get the tokens, you have to go to one specific booth run by one specific guy. That guy gets to set the price of the tokens. He gets to print as many as he wants. As long as you want to stay at the carnival, he owns you. The carnival is the global economy. The blue tokens are US dollars. And the cotton candy is the lifeblood of civilization, oil. The architecture, the 1974 blood oath. To understand the collapse, we have to understand the construction. In the early 1970s, the US was in crisis. The gold standard was dead. Inflation was a monster under the bed. President Richard Nixon and Henry Kissinger knew that for the dollar to survive without gold, it needed a new host. They found it in the desert. The 1974 US-Saudi agreement was simple and brutal. 1. The US would provide total military protection and sophisticated weaponry to the House of Saud. 2. In exchange, Saudi Arabia, the kingpin of OPEC, would price all oil exports exclusively in US dollars. 3. The surplus petrodollars would then be recycled back into the US Treasury market. This created a synthetic demand for the dollar that was independent of American productivity. Every nation on Earth suddenly needed to hoard USD to buy energy. This is the petrodollar system. It turned the US dollar into a global utility. As Henry Kissinger famously said, control oil and you control nations, control food and you control the people, control money and you control the world. The systemic shockwave, the unraveling. What happens when that blood oath expires? We are currently witnessing the most significant shift in global finance since the end of World War II. It's happening in quiet meetings in Riyadh, Beijing, and Moscow. In 2023, for the first time in history, Saudi Arabia signaled an openness to trading oil in currencies other than the dollar, specifically the Chinese yuan. To the average person, this sounds like business news. To a systems analyst, this is a systemic shockwave. If oil is priced in yuan, the world no longer needs to hold trillions of US dollars in reserve. If they don't need the dollars, they sell them. When they sell them, those dollars come home to the US economy. The result: hyperinflation that makes the 1970s look like a picnic. The green smokescreen. Now, let's connect this to your life. Why is the government suddenly obsessed with electric vehicles, EVs and net zero? Is it because they've suddenly developed a conscience? No. The US power structure realizes the petrodollar is failing. They need a new hook to keep the world tied to a system they control. The transition to green energy is an attempt to pivot the global energy architecture from liquid fuel, oil to technology and minerals, lithium, cobalt, semiconductors. If the US and its allies can control the patents, the standards, and the financial carbon credits of the new energy trade, they can build a green dollar to replace the petrodollar. It is a war for the next century of tribute. The human cost, the relatability of ruin. Think about your own life. Think about that feeling of running in place. You get a 5% raise, but your groceries go up by 10%. Your rent goes up by 15%. You feel like you're doing everything right, but the floor is moving backward. That is not a quirk of the market. That is the system extracting the cost of its own survival from your pocket. When the petrodollar system wobbles, the elites don't lose their mansions. They pass the cost down to you through the hidden tax of inflation. You are the collateral damage in a currency war you didn't even know was happening. We are all like the villagers living at the base of a dam. We've lived there so long we've forgotten the water is there. But the cracks are appearing. The moss is growing in the fissures. Counterintuitive truth, the weaponization of the dollar. Here is the insight that most news outlets won't tell you. The US actually accelerated the death of the petrodollar. When the US froze Russia's dollar reserves during the Ukraine conflict, they sent a message to every country in the world: your dollars are only yours as long as we like you. This turned the dollar from a safe haven into a political weapon. Nations like India, Brazil, and the Gulf states aren't moving away from the dollar because they hate America. They are moving away because they are rational actors. They are diversifying their risk. They are exiting a burning building. The new architecture, what comes next? We are moving toward a multipolar currency map. 1. Commodity-backed currencies. Countries are returning to things that are real. Gold, oil, grain. 2. Central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. The green dollar will likely be digital, programmable, and tracked. 3. Regional hegemony. Instead of one global carnival, we will have 5 or 6 smaller fairs, each with their own tokens. This means the end of cheap everything for the West. The era of the US being able to print money to solve its problems is closing. The analysis: is it over? Is the petrodollar dead today? No. It still accounts for the majority of global trade. But systems don't usually collapse in a single day. They drift until they hit a tipping point. The 1974 agreement was built on a scarcity of energy and a surplus of American military dominance. Today, energy is becoming decentralized, and American dominance is being tested. The architecture is shifting. The foundation is cracking. You need to stop thinking about money as a static object. Money is a system of control. And when the system changes, those who don't understand the new rules get crushed. Final thought: the wisdom of the system. The legendary systems theorist Buckminster Fuller once said, "You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete." The East is building a new model. The West is trying to greenwash the old one. You are caught in the middle. If you found this analysis valuable, it is because you are one of the few who prefers the cold truth over a comfortable lie. The question: if the dollar is no longer backed by oil, and the green transition takes 20 years, what happens to your savings in the meantime? We are deconstructing the systems that govern your life every single week. If you want to see the world for what it actually is, a series of high-stakes power plays, subscribe and turn on notifications. Analyze the system. Don't be a part of the collateral.